Hello, we continue our discussion of finance and the sections of interest banking and inflation. For this lesson, we will be discussing inflation, but just a quick recap, just a quick reminder of what we had, of what we discussed previously was the banking. And in the banking, we saw that banks do charge differently on different accounts. Accounts can be described as transactional account, the account that you use basically every day. You withdraw money, you transfer money, you buy things from the shopping mall, supermarket, stuff like that, and you pay bills. So if you're doing that with the account, which is called transactional account, then in that case, the bank will be charging you every day, basically at the end of every day. Now, if you're operating a fixed deposit account, that then means you don't disturb the money you have placed. It's very much like trying to say you have some fixed amount of money that you're not going to be using over some period of time. And so you placed it in a fixed account, in an account, say for a period of 1 year, 2 years, or even 5 years. It's called a fixed deposit account. Now that way, the bank can use that money and they also pay you interest for it. Now, for these charges here, the different types of the charges have been illustrated as different structures here. Well, 3 different types structures of the bank fee formula are shown in the book provided here. Now, in the first structure, we are talking of fixed cost. Okay, so you will find out that your bank is charging a fixed cost plus some percentage of every transactional value. So this time you buy a phone of 10,000, well, the bank will then charge you. For example, the bank will say, well, for this transaction that you have done, we are going to charge you 3.9%, okay? So the bank will be like, we are going to charge you 3.9, rather just 3.9 plus. We will also charge you 1.15 of the what? Of the transaction value. This time deposit value. That then means we will have 1.15% of the transactional value is calculated and added to the what? To the fixed cost. So that means if the transaction was for 500, that means you will then have 3.95, rather 3.90 plus 1.15% of the 500. 500 being the transactional value. You have either deposited some money or you have withdrawn some money. You have done a transaction, okay? So that way you can then, be charged. And because of that, you see this charge here, 9.65. The second structure is that you will be having a fixed cost. Only that the percentage of the transactional value for which you are to be charged, this one here, the percentage, will have a limit. It's like trying to say, well, you've withdrawn, 1,000, we charge you. You withdrawn 2,000, we charge you. But time will come when you have done a big transaction, say of 50,000 or 100,000, something like that. That means the percentage of the transactional value will now be merged. So in this second structure, the bank will be putting a limit over which they will charge you. So they will be charging you from the start of the transaction up to some limit. In this case, 17 rand. So you'll be having 3.75 plus the 0.75% of the what? Transactional value. Okay, and this should be limited to what? To 17 rand as of this example. The method is that 0.75 of the transactional value is calculated and added to the fixed cost, which is 3.9. Now check the solution to see if it's less than a maximum of 17 rand. The bank will not want to charge you too much. You know, sometimes they do this as a motivation so that clients don't, you know, avoid dealing with them. So you see, like here, we did the calculation and it was 9.65. This is less than 17, but there is a time when the transactional value is much. And so when you do the calculation, it will go beyond that. In that case, the bank will only take what? The minimum, which is 17 rand, for example. A fee of 20,000, okay, a fee on 20,000 will pay 3.75, which is the fixed cost, plus 0.75% of 20,000. And what is this? Well, this is up to 150 plus 3.75. Now, this is much higher than the maximum value. So the maximum fee is charged. And what is the maximum fee? The maximum fee is 17. So instead of having the whole of this amount being charged, you will only be charged the what? The maximum amount, which is 17 rand. And then in the third structure, which is here, we have it that variable fee that is charged per 100 of the what of the transactional value. Well, we did a similar question on this, and one thing we saw was that for this, the fee is, you know, per 100. So if you withdraw 100, they will charge you 1.05. If you withdraw 200, or if you do a transaction with a value of 200, they will charge you 1.05 times 2, because there are two 100s in what? In 200, something like that. So very much like to find that value, you will have to what? Well, the method is right here. Work out how many 100s make up the transactional value, and then multiply this number by what? By 100. this number of 100s, this number of hundreds by 1.05. So very much like saying, if you have done this type of transaction, which has costed you 2,350, well, if you do the transaction as making a deposit, then there are 24 full 100s in what? In 2,350. So the fee is going to be 1.05 times 24, which is a total cost of 25.2. Well, so looking at the different charges, you can now choose for yourself the type of account that you want to do what? That you want to operate. So that's what we saw yesterday. Now, the thing that we want to look at for today is, well, a graphical representation of what we have seen above can be illustrated, yeah, right here as shown. So here we have the transactional value. Each time the transactional value increases, the fee also increases, and you can get this type of graph. Very much like finding the x coordinate and the y coordinate. The x coordinate being the what? The transactional value, and the y coordinates being the fee that you have to be charged. Now it depends. So if you're dealing with the first structure, for example, this other one here, where they have a fixed cost of 3.90 plus, that is, this is the fixed cost. So what we are going to be having here is the fixed cost will be right here, 3.90. That is, if you don't do any transaction, then the cost would be 3.90. If you do any transaction, the cost will now increase when we add the 3.90 to what? To the percentage, which is 1.15% of the transactional value. You can get this right away here, and you generate the what? You generate a long graph. This can be done with a lot of ease. For example, we now have it that one. For the first one, it's this. It's 1.15 plus 3.90. So very much like trying to say, if you want to find it in terms of the x and y value, if you want to find in terms of the x and y value, then what we are dealing with here is, well, when x equals to 0, that is when you have not done any transaction, the charge, the original charge is what? The original charge is written as 3.3,9. 3,9 what? 3,90, yes, 3,90. 3,90. So this is what you have. Now, you can write it in the coordinate system, right? You can write it as what? You can write it as 0 for x and 3,90 for y. You see, that can now be plotted. The next thing now comes in, that is, if you do any transaction, okay? So if you do a transaction, for example, a transaction of, all right, let's say a transaction of, let's say 500, it is now going to be the x value, okay? The x value in this case is the transactional value, okay? Then now the y value is going to be the 3, excuse me, 90 plus the what? The 1,10. Let's see this 1,15. Yes, it's 1,15. 1,15 of the transactional value, which means 1,15 times the transactional value. So right here, times the transactional value. So, excuse me, what is this going to be? Well, this is going to be, as we saw, this was already calculated, but you know, we could do it again. This is what? 9,65. So this is 9,65. 9,65. So this way, we can now write the coordinate system, the x value being 500, and the y value being what? 9,65. Like that. You can carry on. You know, you can check for different, okay, for different transactions. Now, please notice that this one is a linear relationship. A linear relationship means only two values will be enough for us to plot. So if, for example, we were to sketch a graph, well, if we were to sketch a graph, okay, well, a graph is going to disturb us this time, but yes, if we were to sketch a graph, the first value would be 0 for x, 3.9 for y, and then the second one would be 509, 65. This one would form a straight line graph as indicated here. It would be a straight line graph. You see at 500, 500 somewhere here, and the value is right over there. So you make a straight line, it's a linear graph. Okay, now for the second structure, interestingly, once you have reached the maximum value, there is nothing more. The calculation is a lot the same like that one we have done here. But should it happen that you have now reached a value which is the maximum, for example, a value like for this second graph, for our second structure, the maximum is what? 17. The bank will not want to charge you beyond what? Beyond 17 rand, and because of that, they will keep checking like that. And when it reaches the maximum charge or the maximum fee of 17 rand, every transaction after that will no longer be charged. Okay, will no longer be charged. So because of that, everything else after that will now be a constant value. This is how the graph will look like. It will keep increasing like that until it reaches the maximum that the bank will charge for any transaction. And once it has reached the maximum, anything spent beyond that will now attract the same charge, seen as what? As the straight line. But for the third one, we have this type of graph here, the transaction and the fee charge. So in this case, we said you are charged S of the 100 that you have. So when you withdraw 100, you will be charged S of that. And that is what? Well, according to the fee that we have for that, the fee is let's see, 1.05 for every 100. So it's 1.05 for every 100. So 1.05 here. So if you have, we don't say 200, so it will be L 1.05 times, okay? 200 divided by 100, which is 2. So that is how the graph will keep appearing. If you bought something for 400, well, for 400, the rate is also going to be there right here. 400 is now going to be 1.05 times, 400 divided by 100, which is what? Which is close to that, 4 point something like that. And here, so basically for the third structure, excuse me. So for the third structure, this is structure 3. What is going to be the X value? Well, we are going to have for no transaction, okay? For a transaction, not more than 100, okay? For X value, ranging from, well, say 0 to 100. 0 to 100. The Y value will not change, okay? The Y value is going to be 1,05. Now, then for the next transaction, okay, if the X value is now beyond 100, let's say it's 101 to say 200, okay? 200 like that, then the Y value, okay? The Y value will be 2 of that, because anything beyond 100, okay, will have 100 going into it more than what? More than ones. And so that is going to be, well, we can put the maximum, which is 200 divided by 100. So when we divide that, excuse me. Oh, sorry. Okay. So this is what we have. Divided by 100, what do we get there? Well, we get 2, you see? So that's what we are going to be having. Then for the next, we are going to be having for value of X ranging, okay? From say 201 up to 300, the Y value, okay? The Y value will be the 1,05 times what? Oh, sorry, this is supposed to have a multiplication. The 1,05 times that. We have to put a multiplication sign right away, like that. So also this one will be having what? Multiplication sign. Then we'll be having what? The 300 divided by the 100, which is 3. That is how we get the value roughly. This is 2 point, let's see this right here. Where is my calculator? Looks like the calculator is not coming up real quick. Just search for it manually. So when I search for the calculator, the first one being what? The first one being 2 times 0.5. Well, 2 times 1.05, that is 2.1. So the first one here is 2.1, very much like 2,1. Then for the second one will be 1.05 times 3, right? That is 3 times 1,05, that is 1.05, that is 3.15, you see, 3.15. 3.15 or 3,15. So it's a range of value, okay, as you can see here. So from 0 to 100, same rate. 100 to 200, same rate. 200 to 300, in that range. So that is how we get the graph. Now for this section here, that I thought we would have a discussion on today, that is inflation. Now, inflation generally means the uniform or the general or the overall increase in prices of goods and services. When you see that prices of items are increasing generally, for example, prices of bread, prices of grocery, prices of, the basic items, prices of fuel, prices of gasoline, gas, prices of everything that you know. And it's a lot easier to notice that when you look at your life, over a period of time. For example, think of the price of bread in 2015. How much was bread in 2015? How much is bread right now? So you see the slices of bread that used to cost, for example, 10 rand. Right now it's 15 rand. You see that? And it's going to 16 rand soon. In some places, it's already 17. That general increase in price, which affects basically every item, is called inflation, okay? And well, we will be calculating it right away, real quick. And inflation is normally expressed as what? As a percentage, okay? And represents the average increase in the cost of goods and what? And services. It represents average increase in cost of goods and services. Number one, the general increase in prices of goods and services, called inflation. Number two, inflation is normally expressed as a percentage, okay? And number three, because inflation represents increase in prices, the impact of an inflation is a reduction in what? In the buying power. What this means is because inflation represents increase in prices of goods and services, that means people will not have the means to buy as much as what they want or as much as what they used to buy. That is supposing income does not increase like that. And most of the time income or the money you get, salary or profits, they don't normally increase that much as compared to the increase in the prices of goods and services. And because of that, inflation have negative impact on people. It makes people not to have the means to what? To buy things. And now, excuse me, here is an example. What's the example? Well, the example here is that that car prices will often increase in value as new model of cars is released. Okay, car prices will often increase in value as a new model of a car is released. Consider a model of a particular type of car price at 80,000. That increased by 5.5% in 1 year and by 8.2% in the next year. We can predict what value of the model of the car will be after what? After some times. So what the person is trying to say here is that normally when cars are produced, they will be having some price. But as people get to find how good these cars are, a lot of people will show interest in it. And so people will begin to buy that car. For example, a car that was produced in 2015 or in 2010 or in fact in 2000, you might find out that the value or the price is now different, especially when it has come with very specific brands. They normally, you produce the car like this, and the new cars coming in the market, they cannot be as good as what was produced. And because of that, the price of that one will increase. So as we had seen earlier, it increased in what? In percentage. So for example, if the value has increased by 5.5 in 1 year, then it's now going to be the original amount of money plus the increase, which is going to be the 5.5% of the original value. Now in the second year, we have this one here, which is what? 8.2%. 8.2% then means it's going to be the value of the car in the second year. That is the value of the car in the first year plus the 8.2% increase, okay? Which is what we have here. And this is what is going to give us. Now, another example real quick is right here. Just a minute. All right, so what we are having here is that we are supposed to calculate the new prices of the following items. If the prices of the items increase at the given what? At the given rate. An increase in price means, for example, as we were talking about bread or maybe pulp. So if bread was costing 10 rand and the price has increased by 10%, that, well, maybe before we even bring the percent, if the price has increased by 1 rand, that means the new price is going to be 10 plus 1. If chicken, 1 kilogram used to cost, well, 30 rand, and this time if the price have increased by 5 rand, that means the new price right now is 30 plus 5. So we take into consideration the initial amount of money, the original amount of money, and onto it we add the what? The new or the percentage increase. That way we can determine the what? The new price. For example, look at this question here. Now this question is saying, well, calculate the new prices of the following items if the prices of the items increase at the given rates indicated. So you see, chicken initially used to cost 29.5. The inflation rate is 5%. You know what this means? Well, for 1.1, we are going to call this activity 1. So this is going to be activity 1, part 1, like that. So for chicken, well, what do we have? Chicken used to cost 29.5. Let me check again just to, yes, 29.50. Inflation rate is 10%, is 5%. Like that. So the price have increased by what? By 5%. You see that? The price have increased by 5%. Now notice that 5% means 5 over what? Over 100, okay? That is 5 over 100. That is the meaning of 5%. So we'll be writing 5 over 100 of what? Of the original amount. So we write it as times the original amount, being what? 29.50. So this way we can bring our calculator on board and we say, well, 29.50, when we add it to 5%, 5% is 0.05, okay, of 29.5. Yes, let's see, that is 30.9 what? 975. So you see, the new price now is 30.975. Just check again. Yes, 975. So that is now the new price of chicken. Well, what else are we trading? The next thing is Coca-Cola. That used to cost what? 6.2%. So we say Coca-Cola is our next item. Coca-Cola. Which used to cost 6.20. That is 6.20. The inflation rate, well, the inflation rate is 7%. So what that means is the price have increased by 7%. And 7% means what? Means 7 divided by 100. And so 7 divided by 100 off, or 7 divided by 100 times 6.20. See that? So we get our calculator right away and we'll be like, well, 6.20, which is 6.20, we are going to add it to 7%. Okay, 7% is 0.07 of 6.2. That is going to give us what? 6.634. 6.634, which we can write it as 6.634. You see? So that is the new price for Coca-Cola, an increase, okay, and inflation. Now, the next thing here is for us to look at what? The house price. Well, the price to buy a house. So we say house price, okay, used to be what? The price, the money to buy a house used to be 730,000. 730,000. Okay. Yes. 730,000. Like that. The price have increased by what? Let's check. The price have increased by 11.3%. And so we say plus 11.3, that's 11.3%, where percent is used to mean divided by what? 100. And so when we divide this by 100, we get it in percentage. Now we have to multiply this percent with what? 730,000. This is going to give us the new price of houses in town at the moment. So we say 730,000 plus, okay, 11%. Well, 11% is 0.113. Okay, that's 11% of 730,000, like that. That is going to give us 812, 490, 812, 490. That's the new price. You see, that's a lot. That's a lot of money. Then we can now look at the next thing, which is electricity tariff. Electricity tariff is the next item that we have to look at. So we say electricity tariff on our list, electricity. That is the charges on electricity. Electricity tariff. Let's see this. Used to be 0. Okay. Just make some small adjustment here. Electricity tariff. That used to be 0.0 what? 782 per unit. 782 per unit, because of the inflation, which is now 32.8%. Okay, the inflation is now 32.8%. You know what that means is 32.8 divided by what? By 100. Okay, divided by 100 of, that is times the original amount, which is 0.0782. So right away in our calculator, we want to do that. Let's see the calculation. So we multiply this with 0.0782. Okay, and to it we add 0.0782. Well, that gives us 0.103. Like that. Well, round it. That's the figure. When we round, that's what we get for the figure. So this is with the inflation. Okay, and this is how we handle questions on inflation. I'm scrolling so that I get for you the second question right here. So please check through this second question. The following extracts appeared in the Witness newspaper on the 27th of March 2008. So this is the price as of what? January 8th, and then Feb 8th over a period of 1 month. This is the increase in price. And please go ahead to discuss this, do this question study the extract carefully and then answer the questions all the way 2.1 to 2.3, 2.1 to 2.3. That's going to be enough for you. And once you're done with that, you should be good enough with this element of inflation. So that's where we're stopping for now. Just make sure you do the activity as soon as possible and submit them right away.